Hey guys, welcome to the Purple Political Talk live stream. We are live here today and we're going to talk about politics, many other things today, and we're going to talk about all the different things that are happening in US politics, whether it be the 2020 presidential election, whether it be the Senate elections, the Republican National Convention, all these important things we're going to be talking again. If you guys can hear me, please give me a thumbs up or say yes, we can hear you in the chat, just in case, because I do not want you guys to miss out what I'm saying. So yeah, let's see. And today's going to be very interesting when it comes to what we're going to talk about because, okay, so you guys can hear me. Thank you. So we have Con here, and Brady. That's great. So Soapmore. Okay, you guys can start putting things that you guys want to talk about. I'm going to start by talking about the Republican National Convention, which is today essentially, and it has been this last week. The Republican National Convention has honestly been I think that it's been a lot more genuine than the DNC. It's going to help out gaining support amongst certain groups of voters, whether it be someone in the Rust Belt, whether it be someone in the Sun Belt. These voters are going to be genuinely connected to the Republican Party now that they honestly have someone they could relate to with the speeches they've given and things like that. So I'm going to start reading the chat and I will see what is going on. And yeah, so will Minnesota be competitive? It's tied in one poll. Yeah, so I saw that poll this morning. And it's very interesting because I think that the state could be competitive. And honestly, it really does. It's going to be interesting to see what ends up happening. At least when it comes to Minnesota, we're going to be able to see in the next upcoming days what will happen and essentially what will be the effects of these polls. So with Minnesota, I think one thing we're going to be seeing is the race is going to tighten up, and essentially what's making this race somewhat close. You have on one side the more conservative voters that are sticking with Trump or leaning towards Trump because they feel like the Democratic Party hasn't done much in the state. On the other hand, we have the other side of Minnesotans who are very mad with the Republican Party. So I think that's going to make the state more competitive, especially after an RNC. So the next question is from Khan. The 2020 election, if Trump listens to science and use contain COVID-19 rules. So here's my stance on COVID-19 and how the administration has handled it. I feel like it's very unfair to give all the blame to Trump. I think all U.S. politicians blamed us. We really don't have enough science. I mean, scientists are saying one thing or the other, but again, there's nothing concrete that we can say to be sure about all these different things. However, I mean, he could be a little bit more complacent with sciences. So I think COVID-19, a lot of Americans are somewhat being a little bit more lenient with Trump as of now. That's what I've seen. And honestly, that shows us that could carry on a big effect on Donald Trump. If you guys haven't watched today's video about Donald Trump's landslide scenario, I talked about that. One of the big hypotheticals is that a COVID-19 improvement is necessary for that to happen. So who do you think will win the election? I think right now, it's a little bit. So my intuition tells me Trump will win. I don't know why or why am I thinking that, but statistically, it's looking like a Biden victory. Do you think, so George Manchin asked, do you think the RNC will have a positive impact on Trump? I think at this point, the RNC will help out Trump more than the DNC helped Biden. And I can tell you that as of right now. However, I mean, the responses that we've gotten from yesterday's RNC is it's more genuine than the DNC, which was very edited, it wasn't great. You know what I mean? In the sense. So I think like honestly, it's going to help him more. If anything, it's not going to be something insane. However, if he can use that to gain momentum, when Biden is kind of slowing down his momentum, better for him, all the power for him, and I think he could do very good. I just wanted you to know that I admire your great deal. You know that more politics. Yeah, you know, thank you, Dan Boyle, right? I really appreciate it. And I mean, it's important that more young people learn more about politics and are able to talk about politics in ways that people could understand, and even the older generations could have a detailed conversation without having a lot of the comments I hear is that you're a kid, what do you know about politics? So I appreciate Dan Boy ain't right. Okay, Poet talking, will Wisconsin tighten up because of the riots there? You know, I would say that the riots do not help the Democratic Party. And essentially, why is that happening? Because they're the ones that are pushing a little bit more of the go out and protest agenda, and that turns into the riots. And the Democratic Party, I feel like, hasn't done much to try to stop it. They haven't endorsed it, of course, because that would just be the end of the whole Democratic Party's political careers. However, they haven't said anything to stop doing the riots. And in some cases, they made it a lot easier. They're not prosecuting. And just so you know, if you guys know who George Soros is, he is one of the most liberal, most leftist businessmen in the United States. He has a lot of communist ideals. He has a lot of money, and he used that for political purposes. So he's paying and lobbying prosecutors to for them not to charge some of the rioters and looters that have taken away some of the businesses, destroyed some parts, which in my opinion is not good. So if the Trump campaign is able to pin if the Trump campaign is able to pin all of that on Biden, I think it's very likely it's going to tighten up a lot more. What do you make of Trump's daughter's RNC speech? I mean, it was okay. I mean, it wasn't impressed. It wasn't that good. I mean, it was an average speech at a convention. She spoke with a lot of excitement, but again, we pushed all these similar ideas we've been seeing. Pence or Harris? I would prefer Harris. Riots will only die down with reform, which Trump isn't introducing. Well, here's the thing. So with reforms, that's going to take a long time. So here's the thing. I feel like, honestly, there might be injustices in America. I am a minority. I am a Latino. And I honestly know there's a lot of different problems that the U.S. has. However, I feel like in the interim, because, I mean, these reforms, they can't be done immediately. And Donald Trump does have plans. But you have to contain that first before you don't have any infrastructure to do anything and things like that. So, yeah, I mean, George, you're right in a certain aspect. But I feel like it's important to acknowledge that if we don't control these riots in a way that our infrastructure is essentially getting destroyed, where we don't have a post office, we don't have a courthouse, we don't have roads, clean roads to drive on, that means the city stops functioning, which creates more problems. Do you know people who are going to vote for both Biden and Trump? Yeah, so I know people who are on both sides of the aisle. They support. I know a lot of big Trump supporters, a lot of big Biden supporters, a lot of people that are down the middle. Now, I mean, with the Trump supporters, most of them were not Trump supporters in 2016. I live in the state of Florida. And one big thing I've been seeing, especially around suburbs in Florida, I know a lot of people in suburban Florida, whether it be in Tampa, Orlando, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Jacksonville, a lot of these voters are starting to say, I voted for Clinton in 2016, but I like what Donald Trump's doing, so they're flipping. On the flip side, I know a couple people, it's not as much as the Trump supporters, that do support Biden because of how they say that COVID-19 was handled, all these different things. It's understandable considering Florida went through a lot of cases, so I know both sides of the aisle. I've heard their arguments, and I think at this point, it's very interesting to see what happens. Do I support Black Lives Matter or All Lives Matter? So, okay, this is a little bit hard to explain because do Black Lives Matter? Yes, but I don't agree with the organization because they've been pushing some ideas which are not good for the greater good of the country. They're running with a good message, but then some of the actions they've taken are not good. Again, but I think like not all lives matter because again, essentially all lives matter because there are other minorities that are passing through hard times, Latinos, Asians, Black Americans. So I feel like it's a balance. I mean, it's all lives matter, but to a certain extent, and Black lives matter to a certain extent. But again, I would say minority lives matter would be a better phrase. You're from the UK, and from your experience, nobody here seems to understand the appeal of Trump. So, George, let me explain this to you. I've been analyzing this, and last week I actually went through and watched a documentary by PBS on Frontline. It's very good about how Trump won the election. So I think I might put the link down in the comment section of this video. So if you want to come back later and check it out. So what is the appeal that Trump has? The U.S. Economically and foreign policy, they've been going down. So the Americans in the Midwest, they've been losing their factories due to bad foreign policy, in part by the George Bush administration's Obama administrations, they helped improve a little bit. And the economy was growing at a steady rate, but the area in the Midwest was struggling. While areas like California were booming because of their technological growth, that's one big reason we saw a lot of big economic growth with Obama. It's essentially the economic growth from the technology companies. The areas in the Midwest where manufacturing was a really big thing, they essentially lost their whole economy. There's no longer factories to support workers, and those workers couldn't go out and buy things at restaurants, or they couldn't go out to the movies. All these businesses started to go crumble, and that means that they lost a lot of support, or a lot of support, at least economically. So essentially, the appeal is that Trump is fighting for foreign policy. He's like hitting China with jabs to get the jobs back and negotiate. And I think the appeal of Trump is his negotiating power. And I think at this point, it's a thing that he does very strongly. And foreign policy. So essentially, economy and foreign policy are two of his biggest things during his administration we've seen. And that appeal is showing in a couple places. So Brady asked, you're still doing live election night coverage, right? Yes, I am. I'm planning to. Let's see how things shape out from here to there. But 99% sure. Do you know of people who voted for Trump but are now going to vote for Biden? Yes, I do. And these are people who are voting on COVID-19 and the fast response. And I mean, I would say that voting on COVID-19, yeah, it's fine. I personally wouldn't do so because, again, since it's a new thing for everyone, I think it's hard. And it's hard to tell what the Democrats would have done to an extent. So I think that right now, so that's a big group of voters that I know voting pretty much on COVID-19. Because for the most part, a lot of other people that I know are flipping parties or flipping to Trump because of how he did the economy, foreign policy this last term. Groundhog asks, how could anybody vote for Joe Manchin? What in the campaign thought it would be a great idea to wear a mask? I don't know. You can answer that. I think it's unfair how Republicans are trying to brand Biden as a socialist. He's not Bernie Sanders. I mean, you're right to a certain extent. I think it's definitely unfair because they're making him seem a lot more left-wing than he actually is. However, here's the thing. Let's be completely honest. When Biden is president, I don't think he would be he's not charismatic or anything, in my opinion. And I think that honestly, his presidency will be managed by Harris and other Democrats who could include Bernie Sanders, but not necessarily. And I'm just going to say that he's been trending a lot further to left from where he was maybe 6 months ago, because it's been necessary for the party to move left, because then you have a lot of these Bernie bros who are threatening not to vote for them. So at this point in time, it's a little unfair, but I think it's like politics again, and politics is politics. And I feel like it's the same type of unfair of how Democrats are branding completely all the COVID-19 deaths. And again, it's politics, and it ends up happening. He's not a socialist, but he's not a moderate, and them are trying to paint him. This is completely right, Brady. I agree with you on there. I think you just heard that. Trump is going to landslide. About half the Hillary voters I know are voting for Trump this time. I know a lot of Hillary voters that are voting for Trump this time around. And a lot of people I feel like people are going to be generally surprised in election. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. My instinct tells me Donald Trump is going to win. However, the data is telling us Trump. I know you can't vote and you don't have to say who you vote for, but do you think if you could vote, you'd know who you're voting for? Yes. And again, I'm going to sound super, I don't know. I'm going to sound a little biased here, but no, I'm not biased. Here is why I would vote for Donald Trump. In my opinion, for the U.S., the most important things they have to focus on, A, the economy, B, foreign policy, and because those two things affect everything else. Foreign policy brings influences into the country where it brings agitators in some cases, it brings economic depressions, all these different things. And I think, the U.S. foreign policy since about after 2005 to where we are before Trump's presidency, not very good. I mean, the Obama administration, their marquee issue was the economy. They started and Trump just kept on going with the momentum. However, foreign policy stayed pretty same, if not even go down. So I think that's important to to say that I feel Donald Trump would go with the foreign policy, and that's the thing that I value a lot as an immigrant. For example, one of the big things I've been seeing is a lot of instability in areas near to the U.S., dangerously in national security, foreign policy, and all these different things. Donald Trump's actually been doing some things to try to make everything a little more stable. So that is why, if I could vote, I would vote for Donald Trump. But again, I would definitely consider voting for Biden for many reasons. But again, Donald Trump is who I would lean with. I got that Trump had said some bad things, so has Joe Biden, but I actually think Trump is more likable than Biden. You know, Brady, I think that that's somewhat true, but not completely. So where does Joe Biden's appeal comes in? That he's more of a family man. Imagine it like this. I would say that Joe Biden is great. Imagine the U.S. was a family. Joe Biden is the uncle that would be good with the kids, and Donald Trump's the uncle that would be good with the adults. So I think that's a little way, because you see how Donald Trump's energy, it's appealing to many adults in the US. Again, he's not the most family friendly president we've seen, especially after Obama, who was a really family friendly person in some ways. So you know what I mean? That's where his appeal comes in. Do you think people in the US not worry about COVID that impacting the tourism? I know most people from the UK are afraid to go to the US anytime soon due to poor COVID response. You know, that's a big thing. And again, I've seen this a little bit more in hand because I live here in Florida, one of the biggest, if not the biggest state for tourism in the US. It's definitely been affected. So, essentially what I've seen, at least when I go out and go to certain tourist areas of Miami, I live in Miami, Florida, and I've seen, for example, the biggest malls that usually this time of summer, they're full of people shopping, mostly international clients. Those people no longer showing up to the malls. Orlando pretty much empty from international tourists. All these different things are affecting the U.S. economy. However, there's something that's saving a lot of these places. Domestic tourists who sometimes wouldn't afford to go on vacation, since the prices are so cheap, they're able to go on vacation and fuel the economy. So it's going to be hit, but not as hard. So, let me see. Next question. Yeah, I mean, a little bit more likable personality. You're right. I agree with Biden that Trump needs to understand the economy won't get better until COVID is fixed. But again, there is no way to fix COVID unless a vaccine comes out. Because you could quarantine, you could close everything down, whatever you want. Close everything down, the economy is going to get worse. And essentially, yeah, you could wear a mask and everything's in place. This is a very contagious virus. And if anything, the impact was a lot better than it was expected. I remember seeing in early March projections of over 1 million deaths in the US for COVID-19, which we're way under that. And honestly, it's a thing where very unfortunate that people died. I mean, I'm not trying to underplay COVID-19 or anything, but I think everything was done. I mean, there's nothing else on the table to do. What percentage of Trump do you think he has? What percentage chance do you think Trump has to win the election? As of right now, I would put him at 35% chance to Joe Biden's 60. Is that 65%? So yeah, if you got voted in previous elections, 2000, 2004, 2008, and 2012, who would you have voted for? 2000, I would have voted for Gore. 2004, I would have voted for Bush. 2008, Obama. 2012, Obama. There's no way to fix it. You're right, but there's a way to make it reduce in speed. I mean, and it has reduced in speed. I mean, this is all mathematical. A curve, I don't know if you guys know this type of math, but a curve, there's a point that's going to end up leveling out. The contagious diseases are always going to be there, especially in a larger country where you can't test absolutely everyone. Testing has been pretty rampant in the US, and a lot of people are just taking tests for just taking tests, not even they have symptoms. So I think, honestly, there's pretty much not much they can do, but again, it's a hoax. I mean, Donald Trump says a lot of things are hoax. But again, I would give him somewhat of a break on that, because after he kind of gets a lot more research on certain things, because climate change hasn't done absolutely anything, he does start to take some actions. It's funny hearing Americans' opinions on Trump. It's true they say the UK and the US speak the same language, but our culture is so different. You know, that is very true. And honestly, I know the UK has a very different culture. I mean, a lot of countries think very differently, and knowing the UK, because I have actually been there, it was a very cool thing. The UK, they have like a different mentality, and it's, I guess, everything's more united. Like politics is a thing where, yeah, it's contested and everything, but it's not as divided. Here in the US, the thing is, the politics is super divisive. You're either on one side or on the other. Very few people actually down the middle, which I'm one of those people that are personally down the middle and things like that. So yeah. Yeah, and like, George, I'm gonna have to agree with you right there that it's very interesting, just because, I mean, I think like also like a lot of people, when they're in the outside looking in, they don't really know, I guess, what it's like one of those situations where just looking at it on the outside, you're like, oh, I just go there for vacation sometimes. It's not the same thing as actually living there, you know what I mean? Do you think the betting odds will tie or possibly flip? I think last days of the election, the chances are somewhat high. I think like 80% chance the day of election day, the betting odds will get super close. But I'm not sure if it will flip, but we'll see. Hey hey PPT. Okay, hey LTP, how are you? Hope you're doing great. Trump and Biden sometimes say really dumb things. Sometimes, both of them say dumb things, and when it comes to gaffes, one says a lot of these things to excite the base. The other one says it unintentionally, ends up becoming a huge thing. So I think, like, honestly, there's not much you can do. Oh, hey, Tony. Okay, betting odds showed a sizable increase for Trump today, although he's still behind. You're right. I mean, I was looking at this morning, when I was to film my Senate video, I was looking at some data. And honestly, I feel like Donald Trump's going up in a lot of polls. We see states like not New Hampshire, but North Carolina flip. Georgia's becoming a little bit more solid. Ohio, Iowa have a lot more solid polling for Trump. Texas is solid for Trump. Betting odds are going high. The JSK forecast is pretty high, or somewhat higher than he was like maybe a couple days ago. Very good, I mean, for him. What do you think will be the closest state this year? So I think the closest states will fall up. Florida. Probably okay. Florida, if the election is like where it is today, Florida, and possibly like Iowa. But if the election gets closer in favor of Trump, I would say the closest states will be Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. And if it gets like a lot further into Biden's favor, I would say Texas, Georgia, and probably Iowa. So that's what I think. How long this is stream? I don't really know. I might do a whole hour, but I might do a little more. It depends. I think the closest state will be Nevada. Nevada, I think, is pretty much almost solidly in the Democratic column. And I think like at this point in time, the Trump campaign, they could try all they want. I think they can't get Nevada. They're increasing support amongst Latinos, which is good for them. However, I mean, to flip Nevada, you're going to have to flip a good amount of voters and things like that. Do you think Biden is likely to win in Michigan? I think he's likely to win Michigan, but the margin I'm not currently sure about, because he has a lot more support in Michigan than he does in the other Rust Belt states, which he still does have. And when it comes to the Rust Belt, Michigan is the most solid for the Democrats, especially since they're like the head of the auto bailout thing, and Biden was there. So I think at this point in time, that's one big thing to notice. I think the other two Rust Belt states will be a lot closer. Okay, so George Manchin asked, what election prediction channels do I like? So I really like, of course, my channel, although I don't watch it. I used to watch a lot of election channels, but like since I like started to make videos, I still do watch them, but not as oftenly, because it's kind of like I hear some of my same things. So I really like UEP. He's a good friend of mine. He has a very good channel. He's also starting out. So I also like Let's Talk Elections. I sometimes like Red Eagles commentary sometimes, but for the most part, sometimes I like EP Official for election nights. So I mean, I took like when I made this channel, I wanted to take big aspects of the political community that are not covered, and I think more of the being completely down the middle faction of the political community here on YouTube is not covered. So that's where I'm basing off my channel. Yeah, maybe Arizona. You're right, Brady Han. I think honestly, Arizona could be a state that could become a lot more close than, again, people would expect. Penn is the most solid. No, Pennsylvania is not the most solid if you're talking for the Democratic Party. That's interesting. Ready goes to bias. I think LTE is the fairest channel of the bigger one channels. Yeah, I think you're right. Here's the thing. I think like sometimes like when people here's the thing about Red Eagle. He is biased in things. But and I guess that turns a lot of people away. But there's sometimes that he makes some really good comments. I listen to all the videos to get a lot of different perspectives because I want to be the fairest as possible. I want to take in all the different opinions. I take all the polling numbers, all the different opinions. I combine that all together, and I find a way to be fair and hear both sides out because both sides have very good arguments and compelling arguments. If you have personally like a little political bias, I get that. And again, it's important to, even if you have a political beliefs of your own, you should be able to like hear both sides out, which is important in anything you do when it comes to analysis. So yeah, I think you're right. There is some bias in REP. I think LTE is one of the fairest, although he has a little bit of anti-Trump bias, but it's nothing insane. I liked Red Eagle, but I stopped watching the videos. He kept putting out videos where Trump wins Wisconsin and gets 270 exactly. I mean, I think also like one of the things like I personally do not like about Red Eagle. I'm not trying to bash Red Eagle or anything here, but some of the videos have gotten a little bit more clickbaity, and I don't like that. But however, I mean, all of these political channels, they're very good. Whether their commentary would be biased or a little bit inaccurate, that depends on how you look at things. However, I mean, all of them has good channels, and really, like all of them have grown a lot. Are you gonna watch the RNC? Yeah, I usually don't like to sit and watch the whole convention. I do watch the highlights after because if you're sitting through the convention, I mean, I have a lot of things to do. So like essentially, I feel like watching the whole convention, one, it gets a little boring after some time, but two, I mean, it's important to use your time wisely. So I watch just the highlights after, and if I see that one speech is very good, I watched the whole speech on YouTube, and everything is available after the fact. So yeah. Clickbaity. So clickbaity is that they make like the thumbnails look like something that the video's not is not. One of the speeches I thought like really like was like very fiery last night in the RNC was the speech by the I forget her name. Let me just look it up right now. But it was like one of the women that she did the video RNC speech. No, not that. Hold on. Kimberly Guilfoyle. She did a very good RNC speech. She's not a major person in the party as a whole. She's not like mainstream. She is on the backsides of the Trump campaign. She gave a very good, compelling speech. Today's speech, I'm really excited. I think Kim Klacik speaks today. That's another person that in the last week has gained a lot of popularity, and she's the rising star of the Republican Party. Do you think there's a difference between a Trump voter and a Trump supporter? I think yes. A Trump supporter is someone that really is kind of diehard Trump, and these are people that you see oftenly with their flags or very, very patriotic for Trump in a sense. And I mean, it's interesting to see. A Trump voter is just someone that I like likes his ideas, but they don't like to focus it too much. Could Kim Klacik win her race? You know, I'm starting to get like, I mean, it's a solid Democratic district, but the way she's been able to appeal to her voters is insane. I feel like that could be one of the surprise races on election night. Think she could narrowly win if she does win, but right now it's still a Democratic district. Although the way that she showed that ad was one of the best political ads. I'm not going to even lie to you. One of the best, if not the best, political ads I've seen. I'm not watching the RNC. The lies are too much. I mean, I don't think they're lies. I mean, both parties lies sometimes, and not lies directly, but over exaggerate facts. So I think at this point, it's important to hear both sides out, compare notes, and which one seems a little bit more better. Yeah, you know, I think like Kim Klacik, her ad was amazing, and I was actually like very like impressed because, and I think she showed how Republicans do support Black Lives Matter and movements like that. So I think that's a very good. She does have a higher chance of victory, and her opponent is going to start raising money. She has a ton of money in the bank. Okay, I was on the beach yesterday. I saw a guy with a Trump hat. By the way, no one with Biden merch, which is really odd. You know, that's actually very surprising because also I haven't seen anyone with Biden merch here in Florida, and I'm talking about South Florida. I've also been to Southwestern Florida. I've been to Central Florida since quarantine and since the election has started, and I've been to like Northern Florida. I kid you not, I've only seen like a Biden sign, flag, whatever merch. maybe 3 or 4 times. However, you know how many Trump signs. I've seen a ton of Trump signs, a ton of Trump stickers, a ton of Trump flags, all these different things, and I think it's too much to account for me. I've seen huge amounts of Trump flags, nothing excitement for Biden here in Florida on the ground. Okay, do you think Biden has a chance of winning? I mean, yeah, his chances at winning are insane. However, as we get closer to election day, those chances are going to dwindle, and they're going to get pretty close to Trump's. So I think at this point, I think Biden needs to keep a low profile, but be able to attack Trump in certain ways. And I think one thing Biden is going to struggle with, and it's not going to be good for him, he's not getting enough press. And in a way that he turns away reporters, he turns away all these different things. And that's one of the Donald Trump's strong suits when it comes to campaigning. He knows how to play the press. He tries to get all this attention that he wouldn't get otherwise by saying outrageous things that sometimes could be exaggerated. So I think it's very strong, a very, very smart strategy. Trump wins. Okay, Jerry. I mean, it's not completely out of the books right now. There was a lot of lies in the DNC too. I must agree with Brady. The DNC, it was very edited in my opinion. I did not personally like it because the DNC didn't connect with you as a voter. Yeah, they gave some fiery speeches, and maybe they were pretending that they were mad. But I mean, if a lot of these lawmakers were actually mad, I would say they have to start doing something about it. I feel like that's another thing that I like a little bit more about the RNC this time around, is that they're being genuine. And yeah, they're not telling you we're very mad, but they're also they're not doing much, which I actually would prefer someone that's saying that, because just don't say something if you're not going to do anything, which is a thing we've seen seeing in the RNC or in the DNC, which I personally do not care for. Okay, Biden is going to enslave all of us. Again, exaggerated quote, but who knows? Republicans, as rule, come out heavy on election day. You know that's true. Republicans do come out on election day a little bit more than Democrats. Although if turnout is high and everything, things happen, because also early voting heavily goes to Democrats. I think there could be. I think that could be because of Trump supporters are more passionate, and Biden, for a lot of people, are anti-Trump vote. You know that is true, in part, but I say excitement is very, very important. If you don't see there's other people like you, I guess there is some anti-Trump people out there, of course, because if you're a politician, you're gonna have your pro people and your anti people. I think just looking at it in a perspective that if you could be anti-Trump, but if you don't see the excitement around Biden and impulse you to vote, you're not gonna go and vote, and that's a vote that you're essentially giving to Trump. So since there's no excitement, that might affect it. Well, Hillary Clinton was insane too, because she says something about Trump, something that's I don't get what that says. Well, Hillary Clinton was insane too, so that says something because Trump still won. Who knows? Do you think Biden will suffer from not visiting states personally? Yes. I mean, virtual campaigning is a disaster. Trump is gonna carry a lot of support from that, and that's where he's been gaining a lot of the momentum. I think honestly, considering his virtual rallies are sometimes disasters, and you're not really connecting with a voter. It's not the same thing to say hi on a computer screen that to go and shake someone's hands personally. It's not the same thing. And that's not the same connection you're building with the voters. That's going to end up hurting him. Mark my words. Okay. Do you think Biden is afraid to debate Trump? I think he kind of is. And I think it's in the Biden campaign's best interest to cancel the debates, because I think Biden is amazing at giving, or pretty good at giving speeches that are pre-written or pre-scripted. He's good at giving those. Thinking on his feet, he's not too great. So that's going to hurt him in certain aspects. So again, things definitely are kind of a little bit on the line right there. I think Biden needs to prepare for Trump attacks, and then he should be fine. You're right. I mean, as long as he prepares, he should be fine. If we have a lot of vote, if we have vote in person, then there will be low turnout on this election day because of COVID. Well, I think honestly they're going to do a mix between in person and mail-in. I feel like the best way to do this election, COVID-19 is starting to dwindle down, and even in the hotspots like Florida, we've started phase 2, which is the next phase of reopening. I would say voting in person should be normal, but also extensify your absentee ballot program so people can request their ballots. And I think to make it more safe for COVID-19, people could vote in their cars and then bring in the ballots, something like that. And I think that would be fair. Do you think if Trump wins the election but Dems win the House and Senate, they will impeach Trump as soon as possible? No, I don't think they would do that because again, that would be like playing politics, and they really don't have anything to impeach him for. And I think like, if they do, I think it's going to be very ridiculous, and they're going to be playing politics. And if they do, I know for a fact that and if it's like nothing like okay, if he does something like Watergate, yes, get impeached, whatever. But if it's like for no reason they just want to get him out of power, the streets of America are going to get mad, especially the Republicans. Don't be surprised if civil war starts, if something like that happens, because a lot of these Republicans are heavily armed and they have a lot of opinions on that. So yeah, I'm worried about massive voter fraud. I think there's going to be there's two sides of things. The mailing aspect, I think like the thing they did with the postal service, there might have been some election influences, but that was not the complete story. I think like also the postal service has been going down at least in use and things like that. So one thing I'm worried about, and when it comes to a lot of these different things, I think voter fraud will be a thing, especially foreign interference, big thing, especially from parts of the Russians and Chinese, actually against Trump, because those two countries are right now pretty mad with Trump. Yeah, okay, so you quoted some things. Half of Trump supporters are basket of deplorables. Sorry, it's only 10%. Okay. It's the protests that are, if the protests are fine, then voting in person is fine because that's not fair. I'm gonna have to agree. If like you guys can, if like I don't know what's the big uproar about mail-in voting. Of course, absentee ballots have always existed, and then you could ask for your ballot and whatever. Don't make it universal. If you're able to go out and protest and make these huge gatherings, should be fine. Just a heads up, Hillary Clinton was not scared to debate Trump. It looks like she was ready. Yeah, she was super ready. I recommend watching some of his documentaries. And actually watch one of what's his name, Howard Stein. A bunch of his interviews with Bill Clinton, so that was cool. Do you as an American worry about the rest of the world thinks of you? Here's the thing. The U.S. is right now not in the standpoint where they should be thinking what they think of us. We're not there because we have a lot of problems internally. We shouldn't be worrying about what happens in the outside, like in how we perceive or the perception. If we don't have our things internally together. I mean, it's important sometimes, but I think that there's like a big movement against Trump internationally by a lot of the governments, even some of our allies, because I mean, Donald Trump is serving the best interest of the United States, not necessarily our allies. And I mean, it makes sense because again, I want you guys to remember things. Politicians do not have friends. They have interest. They do not care what your allies think, whatever. No. If they're interested in some way, they're going to do something. So you know what I mean? That was quoting Hillary. Yeah, I know. Okay, what do you make of Donald Trump implying he won't accept the election results if he loses? It's just my opinion, but I think it's embarrassing. I think that he says that right now to like maybe intimidate, get more press. Because I mean, if not, he doesn't get the press. I mean, if he doesn't do something crazy, then people are not going to cover it. I think we'll have to accept them, and if not, whatever. I mean, pretty embarrassing for him and kind of his whatever career he wants to do after. Who would have voted in 2016? I would have voted for Hillary Clinton. I think he said Hillary Clinton before, maybe not. Okay. Who is your favorite president and who's my least favorite? Let me think. My favorite president, I would say I like what Donald Trump has been doing, but he's not my favorite. I like JFK or Abraham Lincoln. And my least favorites were probably, let me think. I didn't like what Bill Clinton did at the end of his term. Pretty messed up. Who else are who was your least favorites? I guess Andrew Jackson. He was pretty, or Andrew Johnson. I forgot which one it is. One of the two. They were pretty bad presidents. I think it's Andrew Johnson. Who is your favorite? Okay, so yeah. So I answered that question. From your perspective, which country is the strongest ally of the U.S. and which country is your biggest enemy? Biggest enemy, definitely China. They're trying to take everything economically, and they're trying to control the U.S. They're getting influence through social media. They're getting influences through businesses that are coming, and they put certain standpoints that you have to do this, and this. Biggest enemy, definitely China, and they have a lot of power. biggest ally right now would definitely have to be either France, the UK, and at this point, the US is getting pretty tight with Brazil because of Jair Bolsonaro. So I think it's very interesting to see. And I think those are some of the US biggest allies, but definitely Germany, Italy, not Italy that much, but Germany, France, the UK, for the most part, it's those three. And then, yeah. By the way, who do you vote if you're a Democrat in the Democratic primary? I like Adrian if I was the Democrat. If in the Democratic primary, I mean, I'm not a Democrat or a Republican, so I guess it's not if I was a Democrat. But if I signed up for the Democratic Party, I would vote. I would have voted for either Amy Klobuchar. I would have voted for Pete Buttigieg, Andrew Yang. I like that gang. Michael Bloomberg. Those people I really like. So I like more of the moderate people in politics. In some senators and other senators, I don't like them. I knew you were going to say Bill Clinton. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of Bill Clinton. Not because I really like what Hillary Clinton said. In some of the when she was like first lady, but I didn't like Bill Clinton as a president. Do you agree that a voter and a supporter are two different things? Yeah, a supporter is someone that generally speaks out absolutely everything about one person. They are very passionate, enthusiastic. They're someone that really is excited and they show it. A voter is just someone that's, I would say, those people, along with a big group of voters, are a little bit more quiet, on the down low, on who they're supporting, all these different things about the election. So there's two different things. You're right. So there is a difference. Out of the realistic choices for the Democratic nomination, who do you think would have been the best choice and who do you think would have been the worst choice? So I would say the realistic choices would have been like the people that like the last six left in the primary without Tulsi Gabbard. So I would have said best pick Amy Klobuchar, worst pick Sanders. I think Warren would have fallen pretty good. I think Bloomberg would have done okay, and Pete Buttigieg, he would have done, I think, like pretty good. I had such relief on Super Tuesday when Bernie didn't do as well as people expected. Trump would have a lot more attack to Bernie with opposed to Biden. You know, that's right. The Democratic Party almost made a crucial mistake. If South Carolina hadn't gone to Biden by that much, I think Bernie Sanders would have been on the ticket and the Democratic Party would have been destroyed. And I think, honestly, it would have been worse because I think Bernie Sanders would have been a lot more vocal about Black Lives Matter and defund the police and all these big movements that the Republicans are heavily running against Biden for, when Biden really hasn't said much about them. So Bernie Sanders would have been attacked more, and that's honestly going to hurt it would have hurt the Democratic Party. So let's see. I'm not getting much more in the chat. Let's see. So yeah, I mean, I feel like at this point the primaries were interesting. Let's talk a little bit about the 2016 primaries. Who would you guys supported in the Democratic primary and the Republican primaries? I'm really interested to see what you guys think. I hate at the moment how people don't try and understand other perspectives. I hate Trump, but I want to try and understand why people support him because I think it's important to know. You know, I feel the same exact way. I mean, I don't hate Trump, but I think it's important to still know about both sides of the aisle. And essentially, it's because he's America first, which is the thing the U.S. has been dealing with, where a lot of things have been shipped outside of the U.S., which is not good for the country and things like that. Bernie Trump. Okay, I would have supported Clinton, and I wanted Marco Rubio to win a little bit, but or Kasich or Trump. I wouldn't have cared for which one would have won. Andrew Yang and Donald Trump, Sanders and Kasich. I think a Sanders and Kasich a matchup would be interesting because Kasich doesn't have good appeal in the southeast, but I think he would do very well in the Sun Belt in general. So I think he would have done a very good job at it. So yeah, I mean, the primaries are always interesting because it's not like the Electoral College, which is pretty much set in stone. It changes a lot, so it's interesting. 2020 primary was much more exciting. I didn't really watch 2016. Your top choices were Biden, Klobuchar, and Buttigieg. Let me help you out right there. It's spelled Buttigieg, so you just know how to spell it for the future. I misspelled it. Hold on, Buttigieg. There you go. So yeah, so you know how to spell it in the future if you have to write it officially or whatever. Do you think McCain's should make an official endorsement for Biden as this may help his chances in Arizona? I think that they should. However, that would push him out of the mainstream Republican establishment. The McCain family is an establishment party, like family in the state of Arizona. They're a lot more moderate than most Republicans. However, I mean, for their perspectives and their conservative support, I think is not a great idea. But I mean, if they want Trump to win, if they want Trump to lose a very big or by a larger margin, I think they should definitely go through and do that. This primary was the most diverse, I would say, in recent times, and we saw a lot of women running for president. We saw a lot of these different campaigns. I would say honestly that like this campaign, just because we had two huge front runners coming in, I think it was pretty predictable that the first 20 candidates, whoever, like we had a governor, senators, whatever, like mid-level tier Democrats, the people who ran, you know, that we're not going to win the nomination. So I think it's more interesting where there's no clear front runner and they're punching each other and see who comes out as a front runner. Okay, you just posted your first video. Okay, class of 2020. I'll make sure to check it out. Is it about politics or is it about something else? I'll make sure to check it out. Okay. Do you think the Mendes may endorse Biden? I think they definitely consider it. And considering that, like, for example, Cindy McCain is not the biggest fan of Donald Trump. Meghan McCain, she's not a huge fan of Donald Trump either. Pretty good to prepare pretty easily to see that they might actually endorse Biden. Okay, so yeah, I'll make sure to check it out. Something else. Oh, what is it? I just want to know. Okay, I started school but online. So I started school yesterday online. It was pretty interesting. It's pretty long, but still I've learned a lot in the last couple of days. George Manchin, okay, so he asked, I noticed that Biden is incorporating as many celebs in his campaign as Hillary did. Do you think this is intentional? One, I think this is because right now, having a celebrity being endorsing you, not the best move for many reasons. And I would say, one, celebrities don't want to do that because then that kind of ruins their image in some ways. And two, what's the other thing? It's pretty risky with COVID. And three, if the celeb does something bad, that's going to be used against them. And I'm going to explain to you like why it's not appealing to voters as much. It appeals to like the millennial voters, which I'm just going to support who this person supports. One time, my parents, when in 2016, they went to a concert of a pretty famous, well-known Latin musician. His name is Mark Anthony, and they were at a concert and they were enjoying the concert, whatever. And he goes and puts Hillary Clinton on the stage. Hillary Clinton gives a huge speech. The whole audience booed because there's, I think, a clear line between celebrities and politics. If they're not involved in both, I think they shouldn't be giving speeches at things like that. So that really ruined Mark Anthony's reputation for some people and things like that. So not a good move, because that brings you a lot worse stuff. Okay, I know. Okay, it's how I got a gold medal in a sports video game. Oh, that's cool. I would have went for Kasich, Rubio, Graham, and Clinton. Okay, that's actually pretty cool. Don't count out on down ballot races. You know, Avery, I think you're right that down ballot races are going to be very, very different. For example, Maryland. We have Kim Klesich's district, a pretty much solidly Democratic district at this point. So yeah. Let's see. I think the most states that no one talks about are so lonely or safeties for both parties. Absolutely. Do you think Biden would have won if he ran in 2016? No, I think there was here's the thing. In 2016, what was the big issue? People wanted an outsider view into insider swampy politics. Biden he's like one of the leaders of the establishment and a leader of the swamp. He's been there for years, for decades. He's been there for a long time. So when Americans are frustrated, as they were in 2016, I think he could have narrowly lost to Trump. How can anyone win from the person? You know, that's right. I mean, that's going to hurt out Biden. I think people are just like saying that Biden's going to win by that, but like going on the ground, it's going to hurt him. However, I mean, and also like since if you're like in your basement, the chances of you getting more media coverage are very low. It's not like we're going to go through and say, oh, today Joe Biden went to the state of Iowa and started shaking hands, and then he gave a speech at a firehouse. That's not going to happen. It's going to be like Joe Biden talks 3 times a day, and that's it. Okay, are you excited that you live in a swing state so when you can vote, your vote? Well, yeah, I mean, definitely. And I personally feel like I feel excited, but I feel also that's unfair in some ways because my vote should count the same as the vote of everyone else. So I feel like it's a little unfair that like only a handful of people get to decide who actually becomes the president. Do you have similar political opinions to your parents and your friends? So I do have like pretty similar political opinions to my parents and like a lot of like family friends. But like my like younger friends, they're a lot of them are very like pro like progressive. So like I sometimes have disagreements with them, but I do have some other conservative friends as well as I do have very liberal friends, and then I also have a lot of friends that are down in the middle. So yeah. Biden has went down 1 cent in 24 hours. Yeah, I mean, we're gonna see a lot of Biden going down in the next couple of days, especially if the RNC is being in a way that is genuine and connecting with certain voters. The Biden stocks are going to go down. Let's see. Well, we've been here for 15 minutes. I haven't noticed. I've enjoyed talking to you guys. Okay, wait. Are your parents liberal or conservative? My parents are they're conservative, but for the most part, so they support Trump. They're conservative for most issues, but for some issues, they're super liberal. I'm a little bit more to the left of them in certain ways, but still. Um, I get how people could support Trump policy wise, but personality, I think he's horrible. I think that honestly, that's one of his big detractors. And I think honestly, if you're gonna vote on personality for the president of the United States, in my opinion, you're doing something wrong because someone could be the nicest person, whatever, but if their policies are not good, I mean, what's it for? Um, do you think that 2020 election will be similar to 2016 or 2008? I think it would be the most similar to either 2016 or 2012 in certain ways. I don't feel happy to vote when I grew up. I think also like when you grow up and you actually have issues in your personal life, you're going to have to like think a little bit more about your vote. Whether it be if you're like a business owner, like you having to deal with some things for your business, or whether you need health coverage, or it be something like that. Those different things are going to come into your head when you become older and vote. Well, my parents are Trump. I mean, my dad's more of a Trump supporter, but my mom is a Trump voter. It's not about being a nice person, but the person who seems should be decent and have compassion, which I don't see from Trump. That's true, but again, looking at like personality, I think is more important for foreign policy. And if you're kind of a little bit gullible in some ways, like Biden is, or like very like if you like not decent, because being decent is always good, but being very like nice, like be quiet. Like well, Biden is quiet, so um that's going to be like hard to see. So for like especially for foreign policy. Okay, my dad is a Trump supporter too. Okay, that's cool. I'd like to see a woman of color on the ticket. I think that's actually very interesting, and I think it's been long overdue since we've seen a woman on the ticket as vice president and a woman of color at that. And I think it's going to be interesting to see what ends up happening. If I'm correct, Harris is the third woman after Geraldine Ferraro and Sarah Palin to be a woman on the ticket. So yeah. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, I would be frustrated if I lived in like a state. I know, like for the people that live in the state, for example, if you're a Democrat in Kentucky, I must say that that should be pretty um I guess not discouraging and kind of annoying because like you have like these strong political opinions and they're like not worth anything. Do you think like okay, LTP? Yeah, I mean, kind of the same thing as like my parents. Do you guys in the US know much about Brexit, and what do you think about post Brexit with the UK post Brexit? So yes, I know a lot about Brexit. When the first initial things I researched a lot, and then um I know I like UK politics. I know the basic things. With Brexit, I would say that okay. First of all, was it a good move? I wouldn't say so. They were getting a lot of benefits, but again, they were also getting ripped off in some aspects. I think the U.S. will just keep on the relationship and even grow it a lot more because now they don't have to like deal with like this reminds me of like a marriage where let's suppose that like the US is like the other couple, and then the US is, or the UK is like divorced but with kids. So I don't know if that's a good like comparison, but it's kind of like that. So I think the US will really like the UK being separated from the European Union, because again that gives them a little bit less ability to trade and things like that, because it's not only with UK but you also have to do it with everyone else. So yeah, you know what I mean. So you're gonna watch the RNC. Okay, have fun. So yeah. But I think like okay, so that was me personally, George. But I think most mainstream Americans do not know about Brexit, and I think nor they do care. I would say, but for the US, it would be in the best interest to still talk to England, or the UK rather, because it's not England. So okay, Avery, you hope that she can break the last barrier. I think it's the glass barrier. I think that she has a high chance of. Here's one thing I do not like about Kamala. It's that if this is a thing, she's overly charismatic in certain ways. What do I mean by this? She is somewhat fake in certain aspects, because she's like way too super happy always, and then that doesn't paint a very good picture. Let's see. So, I mean, okay, as an American, what do you think the Brits think about Americans? Okay, I know like a lot of Brits, I think that they really have somewhat of a little bit like not hate, but like animosity is the word maybe towards Americans. I think they're like the Brits think that they're like super dumb. I'm being stereotypical here in some certain ways, and they think like Americans are so conservative, because I mean I think like UK politicians, and generally I think also like politicians in Canada, which is pretty similar to the UK in certain ways, they're a lot more liberal. So I think they're super conservative and things like that, and they're like super boring people, I think sometimes. You just posted a second video about politics. I'll make sure to check it out, class of 2020. After I'm done with this stream, I will make sure to go check out your channel, because I know you've been one of my followers for quite a while. So you think Elizabeth Warren is nice, but a bit of fake quality. Okay, I see it on my screen now. I think Elizabeth Warren is nice, but has a little bit of fake quality, like Clinton, like the selfie line thing. It's unnatural, and I think if you're being fake like that, you're gonna lose support. We saw that a little bit with Hillary Clinton. I mean, Harris does it in a way where she speaks, and to me, as a voter, that's a detractor from maybe voting to Harris. George, what did you think about my analysis of how the Brits, I think, like think of the Americans? You already posted your 7th video. Yeah, okay, I'll see them. I have to go through my subscribers, because I know a lot of them have started channels or have channels. I have to go through like a lot of them, because I don't really have a lot of time, but I definitely like when I have free time, I check out some channels. Conservative is so different in the UK. Most conservatives in the UK still support LGBT rights, gay marriage. They're a lot more liberal. That's pretty much what it is. And as a country as a whole, definitely the US is very, very conservative. Even the people who are called liberals are conservative on global standpoints, or in a global standpoint, because global standpoints is what you believe about global issues. Would you want 4 more years of Trump or 4 years of Biden? I would say that Trump has started to get a lot of things done, which, again, that's one of the things I don't really like about the U.S. Since there's party fatigue, nothing ever gets done. So I would say get 4 more years of Trump, finish 2 or 3 more issues that are important, and see how it goes, and then give 4 years of the Democrats. I think you're right, TBH. Kind of think that Americans are quite crazy, not just with Trump, but in general. We also see Americans as great allies, but also quite annoying. That's true. But yeah, it's also stereotyping. You're right. Do I dare ask, but what Americans think of Brits? Most Americans say they have like the accent. That's the thing that pretty much comes up, and they just think they're so fancy, like they're super proper and things like that. Which I know for a fact that's not true, because like for a lot of countries, like they seem super proper when they're like doing business and when they're doing certain things, but they seem super proper. So tell me what you think of that. But I think also they think like Brits are like rich, ritzy people for the most part. I actually have been watching. I like studying the UK because it's an interesting country. I've like watched some things and it's actually very interesting. I think former years of Trump could be scary for the whole world. I mean, true, but again, we're also in the U.S. right now. It's dealing with a couple things: instability in Latin America, which I mean, allies in Europe don't have to deal with this. I also wanted to mention, guys, like while we're talking about foreign policy, Kim Jong Un might be dead. What do you guys think of that? Because yesterday reports came out that he was in a coma, and Kim Yo Young, his sister, is now in control. So, what do you guys think of that? What policies do you like? I mean, for what policies, James? Trump, Biden, who? Like, you can tell me and then I'll answer. So, George, what do you think of my analysis? No 4 more years of Trump. So, do you want 4 more years or do you not want 4 more years? America's too diverse. That's why we can't agree on stuff. You're right. But diversity is good in some ways because you get more ideas. And different cultures, you just have different beliefs. And I mean, realistically, there's diverse communities that are a lot more diverse than others. If that made sense, like minorities and things like that. Any policies? Okay, I'm gonna try things that okay. I'm gonna do Trump things that I agree. I'm gonna do one Trump thing and one Biden thing that I agree with. With Trump, I would say that I would agree with his border wall policy. Again, it sounds very crazy, very whatever. But here's the thing he says about crime and stuff and rapists, whatever, it sounds crazy and he's over exaggerating it, but it's a truth. Um, I lived in Latin America for a very, very long time. Not very long time. We lived there for 6 years. And I know, like realistically, it's not only in South America where I live in Venezuela. I also live, or I kind of lived in like Dominican Republic for a couple years as well, or like a little bit in and out because my dad had a couple businesses there. But um, just looking at it in a way, there's a lot of crime and there's a lot of gangs and drug cartels that do many things that affect national security, whether it is drugs, whether it is the human trafficking from people from across the border, things that dangerous to national security. So I think the border wall is an effective way to kind of stop the tracks of those people and try to take them into custody. One Biden thing I do definitely agree with is some of his racial stances. I think like America needs a lot more the racial justice system is not good. I think like honestly, just by the way of design of how the system is, there's a lot of big things that minorities do end up getting disadvantaged with, and I can speak to that as a minority myself. But still, I like your analysis of Brits, but we're not all rich and posh. We don't all live in London. Yeah, I know that's a thing that like a lot of people think. I remember watching this UK TV show called like Rich House Poor House. I don't know if you've watched it, but it was like about how like people like in the top 10% of British people live, and then the top or the under 12 the like the least 10%. So it's interesting because like you could compare it to like a lot of the lives of like the rich people in America, like the cars, the house, all those different things. And I can speak to that because like I have a lot of friends that like experience that, and even myself as well. And then like also the bottom 10% also has I guess a lower amounts, as you can see, and it's pretty bad, but I think it's not as bad as like here in the US. But things definitely are different. I even voted twice in UK elections. Once I voted Conservative because I thought the Union was at risk, but the next time I voted Liberal because I wanted to stop Brexit. Okay, who is your favorite UK politician? So, do you prefer Jeremy Corbyn or Boris Johnson? So, which one do you prefer? Hi, Tiff. How are you? George, I just want to ask something. Is like the biggest like stereotypical like election night moment in the UK? Is that like the BBC, or is it the BBC projection that they do like a projection when the polls close, and it's like this huge thing, and that's when they say like who's gonna win the house or the parliament? Is that like the biggest political moment? I just really wanted to know because that's like what I've seen like the biggest election night moments in the UK be. So yeah, I mean, very good live stream today, guys. Do you guys want a little bit more time? Please tell me down in the chat. You will vote down ballot. Okay, so I mean, there's like certain, if you have certain beliefs, you're going to vote down ballot and things like that. Okay, I will do more time, George. I'll do a couple. I think I could do 20 to 30 minutes. Okay, I prefer Boris Johnson out of the two. I don't vote for either of them. I voted Liberal Democrat. Okay, I mean, isn't Jeremy Corbyn very, very like liberal? Isn't he like a Bernie Sanders of the UK? And I think like one of the things I heard of why, I mean, the elections were like last year, but one of the things I heard why Jeremy Corbyn lost was majoritarily because of how he couldn't organize the Liberal Party, because it's like saying if you win the Congress, you win the presidency, because the prime minister is technically the president. But that's very interesting. But if I voted again today, I would, and the union was at risk, I would by Labor again. I would vote Conservative. Okay, that's like a good step. When like I think like it's important to think in that way, whether you live in the UK, Canada, whatever. Take both parties into consideration, because one thing that may sound crazy and one or ideas that may sound crazy could be kind of countered and things like that by the other party and kind of take control of the union. BBC exit polls in the biggest part of the election night, the results don't really vary much from the exit poll. Oh, okay, that's actually really cool, because I've seen like the BBC exit poll thing, when they reveal results, it's like this huge thing I've seen in the past. Yeah, the UK and Canada have very similar electoral system. I think the only difference is that Canada doesn't really have a monarchy. It's more like it's like they run their own government. They have like a governor general, which is like nothing. It's just like a very symbolical title. But yeah, is Boris Johnson help down ballot? It's that, well, in the UK, you don't vote for the prime minister, if I'm correct. You vote for the party of who you want to be the prime minister. So it's not like a down ballot thing. I couldn't vote for Jeremy Corbyn either. The time I could vote, he's too divisive, and I say out of the union, he puts the union at risk. Oh, okay, that's. I mean, I can understand that. Canada is like the House in America. Oh yeah, I mean, essentially, isn't there also like a Canadian Senate, or like it doesn't like not function properly? I mean, with it's the not the House of Commons in Canada. It's just Parliament, and I think. Right now the Liberals have the majority. I didn't think that's cool. George, I have a question. How often do you guys see coalition in the UK? Do you barely see them? Do you often see them, or you never see them? I know, for example, in other places like Spain, in Italy, in France, sometimes you see a lot of coalitions needed to have a majority. In Latin America as well, these there's like 10 million political parties. That's what I don't like about the US, because like when there's like 10 million political parties, there's like, I am the party that supports this, and then no, I don't support that. And then it's like different versions of like the same parties, but without supporting one issue. That's right. Vote for a member of parliament representing your area in the UK. There's 650 members, so you 326 for a majority. Oh, okay. Yes, because we still have premieres. Hold on. But it's okay. But it has very little power. That's what I've heard. It's rarely people in the Senate that identify with a party. Okay, so it's kind of just symbolic. That's interesting. I like how the US has two major parties, but because if there's no parties that I'd vote for. That's what I'm guessing it says in the but yeah, I mean, you're right. Third parties in the US haven't taken off the ground. I mean, you kind of had like a big movement in the 90s with the Reform Party. The Green and Libertarian parties got pretty respectable amount of vote in 2016. Other than that, nothing. Not really. There's probably going to be an early election in Canada. Yeah, I heard about that. Is it like the prime minister could delay the election or something like what? But why would he do that? Or not delay the election, but like move it up? Yeah, you're right. Because if there's more parties, it would be confusing. That's also a good point of having a multi-party system. because again, that brings like you have to decide who specifically you want to vote for. We don't really have coalitions. We had one for 2010 to 2015, conservative and liberal, but we usually have majority or a mimicry government which had way more seats in the second place. Yeah, I mean, wait, wasn't like 20 that like period that you're talking about? Is the NDP is in Canada. The Liberal Party had like a good amount of seats. But like I have a question as well. Does Scotland and Wales and does Northern Ireland do they get representation in UK Parliament? Because if I'm correct, it's UK. It's not only England. So I know there's also like big party the big like nationalist parties of those areas. So yeah. And coalitions don't tend to work, so one party tends to suffer from it. Liberals went from 57 seats in 2010 election to 8 seats in 2015 because of coalition. Especially for those people who are not really into politics and just vote. Yeah, you're right. But then also, after you find a party that you agree with for most things, it's going to be easier to do certain things in politics. Yeah, George, I'm really interested about UK politics. It's very interesting, as well as reading Canadian politics. Very interesting. Oh yeah, I also want to ask you that, George. Like Avery's asking Brady for Canada, but is there like down ballot races in the UK? Like, is there races that are important like that? Justin Trudeau holds a minority government, so parties can vote for an early election because he has a minority government, and there is a vote scheduled next month. And Aaron O'Toole, new Tory leader. Oh, okay, that's cool. He said that he wants an election, and the Bloc want Trudeau to resign. Have you seen the Israeli elections? Yeah, those are crazy. They're like 5 million parties. They actually have to work in coalitions because if not, they're not getting anything done. It's pretty insane. And the Bloc. So, Brady? Who does the Bloc Québécois support? Like, do they support Trudeau or do they support the minority? Or in this case, the majority by coalition. I think, if I'm correct. Yeah, Scotland and Wales, they have representation. They count the 650 seats. Scotland has voted 55, 59 nationalist MPs, which that's why I worry about the union. I think I heard about that, and I think honestly that's really what's going to affect it. Which party has like the biggest influence? Like the UK or the English parties have the biggest influence like outside of England. Wales nationalists aren't respected much. I mean, that's also because they're very small compared to other big nationalist movements in the nation. So like Quebec is very nationalist. They want to get independent. I mean, they don't say it out in front, but they really want to do Catalonia in Spain. Very big movement there. Do you believe DC should have statehood? No, DC is a city, and it really does not deserve a statehood, in my opinion. It's the seat of the federal government. It's a federal district. I think they should increase funding for DC, but not make it its own state. UK doesn't have down ballot races. We have general elections, and then different years have local elections where you vote for a local council. Oh, that's similar like to Venezuela. I remember how elections work there. Is they have the presidential elections one year, the governor elections one year, the parliament elections the next year. You have like an election every year, and then you have like your local elections the next. How about more Christian? Please ask. Yeah, okay. So what's your question, George? Guys, I actually really enjoyed this live stream. I had a really good time with a lot of you that stay here for most of the hour. And if you're watching this on the replay, again, please, if you have anything that you want to say, please comment down in the comments. So, George, you had a question. Let's see what it is. Oh, guys, by the way, and if you guys are not subscribed yet, please consider so, because we're growing very quickly, and I want to like accelerate the growth so we have a bigger base and bigger people we can talk to about different things, learn about politics in different perspectives, and listen to each other in different ways so we each learn a lot more about politics. So please remember to like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications so you guys are up to date with latest content. Oh, okay. I thought you had any more questions about UK politics. Oh no, I mean, I thought you had questions for me. I mean, for the most part, I think everything else is pretty clear. But I mean, I guess there's like more questions when it comes to like the biggest MPs and things like that. But like, not really. What are they saying is that the White House, Capitol, White House, Supreme Court will stay as a district, but the rest, I feel like it's gonna be too complicated because then it's like and then it's hard because people that live and work in Washington, they're gonna live like and pay taxes in DC. I personally say it should be the federal district the way it's set up and have a mayor, and just give them more funding because realistically, what they're fighting for is like maybe pass a bill to give them a voting member in Congress. That solves the problem. But yeah, I think like honestly, it's also too complicated because then you have like the embassies would then not be in the district, a capital district. It would be there's a ton of embassies in the middle of nowhere, so it'd be like you have your embassy in the state of Columbia. No, they wanted to call it a couple of different things. And then you would also have problems with apartment buildings and things like that. There's just way too much government real estate in Washington, so I think it's too complicated. It's funny because in the US you can't really change when an election is held. In the UK we had an election in 2015, so we're not meant to have another one until this year, but we had one in 20. Yeah, you're right because like definitely in the UK, in Canada and other places that have governments similar to those, you can change the elections there. But here to change an election, you have to go through a huge, lengthy process that's never done, and Congress has to pass it, and it's a huge mess. So yeah. So guys, I think I'm gonna end it here. I really enjoyed all of you that came and we chatted for a little bit. And I hope you enjoyed the video. If so, please hit a huge thumbs up, a like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications to be up to date with our latest content. And yeah, so guys, hope you enjoyed the video. And I'll see you guys real soon. Bye. Bye, Brady. Bye, George. Bye, James. All the people that came here. Bye.